Okay, this is the first video in nested decisions, and because we've gotten to a little more complicated programs or solutions, you're going to see why we have a difference between a problem statement and a human algorithm. So this is the problem statement we came up with. These two inputs, and then we had some decisions, and then we had this output. When I go ahead and redo the problem statement to human algorithm, it changes, and that is we start out with this first input, but the second input doesn't happen right here because it doesn't make any sense. The second input is based upon whether a person has raised their hand. So we're not going to ask them if the answer is correct or not if they haven't raised their hand, because if they haven't raised their hand, they don't know the answer. So that's why we put input in the beginning of each of these, because unlike our problem statement where input and input are right next to each other, because this is simply just a breakdown of the different categories, whereas this human algorithm is a step-by-step process. So it doesn't make any sense anymore to put the two inputs together, and that's why this input is inside the decision, not next to the other one. Alright, so let's go ahead and flowchart it and code it and see how that works. I've cheated a little bit, and I've started my flowchart because I think by now you know how to be able to do most of this, how to do an input. So the only thing that I want to show you about the input is you want to make sure that you tell the person that you want a yes or no answer, and whether it's a capital Y or a small y. So hand raised, question mark, yes, no, all within these quotes. So you can't end the quote here and then start another quote. It has to start and end with a quote. Alright. So we have our input, and then we have our decision. So I have to add a decision here. Okay, and this decision is based upon whether the answer is correct or nope, is whether their hand is raised or not. So copy and paste. Okay, remember we don't put the if in there because the diamond is if. Okay, if it's true, then I'm going to ask this question. So, oh, okay, so I'm missing that input. All right, so I'll add another input, and that is answer correct. And then the question is answer correct, question mark, yes/no, close quote. Okay, so that decision, that input is inside the decision, just like it shows here. Then I have another decision inside it. So this is the nested part of the decision. And this is the answer correct? So first we ask them if it's correct. They're going to say yes or no. And we're going to do two different things depending on whether that is yes or no. So if it's true, we're going to do this message. If it's false, we're going to put this one. And let me make this a little bit bigger. Come on. Here we go. And then, if they didn't raise their hand, then they're going to have this message. So this is what we call a nested decision. That is, this decision is inside that one. Before we did stacked, and that means this decision would be down here. We would do this one first and then that one. But many times when we have complex decisions, we don't want to make this decision unless this decision is yes. And in the future, we'll see some where we don't want to make a decision unless this is no. All right, so this is exactly how they wanted this here. So let's go ahead and code it. So I'm going to open up HTML kit. And you can see I've cheated a little bit here. I've already started it. So now all I'm going to do is take my human algorithm and copy and paste it into the script tags. All right, the first one is input. So I'm going to go ahead and put input And I say I have a place in memory called hand orientation raised. I'm going to assign to that place in memory what's returned from my prompt when I ask it this question. And I have that yes and no there, but I can go into my flowchart. Come on. And since that's already been tested, I can copy that and paste it into my code. So I can get rid of this. Hand raised yes or no. And then let's go ahead and give it a default value of yes. Okay, remember default value is important. And that with a semicolon. Okay, then I have my first decision, and this has to, of course, go in parentheses. And remember, whenever we're using JavaScript, equal means the sign, equal means are these the same. All right, then I have my other input here. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to say I have a place in memory called answer correct. I'm going to assign to that place in memory what's returned from my prompt. Prompt. When I ask it this question, and again I'll go back to my flowchart and grab the question. So that's why we use the flowchart. We can test out and make sure that everything is working perfectly, and then just copy and paste it into our JavaScript without having to worry about errors. And again, the only thing I want to do is have a default value so that my second argument will be yes also. Oops. Okay, and then based upon that input, so you can see input now is here and here, so I can comment like crazy, but I'm going to put in here calculations, even though there is none. Calculations. Just to break it up and show where things are. This is calculations, or you could say logic if you want when there's no calculations. All right, so now we want to see if they said yes or no. So open parentheses, close parentheses, and then this is equal. Now the other thing that we want to be careful of is where our braces are. So the brace for this goes always the line, or right underneath the if we have an open brace. Oops. So we have an open brace. And what I recommend that you do when we get this complex is comment it. So I'll do start hand raised. So this is what happens if they say yes. This is the start of that. Okay, and then I have this prompt here, and then I have another if. So I'm going to go ahead and create another brace, and this is start answer correct. So that's a different start. So we started two things. We haven't stopped anything yet. Okay, so if it's true, then we'll do this message, and of course end with a semicolon. And then I'm going to put right underneath here a close brace, and then commented stop answer correct. So now I have a start and I stop for each one. All right, and then this is the else, and this is a comment. Whew, don't need this here. It's true, but we don't want to put it. I got to actually put 2 slashes to comment it, but that'd be confusing. So this else means that the answer was not correct. So under this I'll have a brace, and then I'll comment it, start answer incorrect. If it is incorrect, then I'll put a semicolon at the end of this, and then I'll put another brace in. So this brace goes right underneath the other one, and this will be stop answer incorrect. So I have a start correct, stop correct, start incorrect, stop incorrect. But I have a start hand raised and no stop hand raised. And of course that's going to go at the end of this brace right here before my else. So I'm going to go ahead and again line this up with this top one. This says that in between those two braces, so this is stop hand, home row, hand raised. All right, so now I've stopped what I started up here, and now this else right here, their hands are not raised again. That's just a comment, so we'll get rid of that. And then this is where I'm going to start hand not raised. And then this is what we're going to do if it is true that it's not raised. And then we're going to end it. End hand not raised. Seems like an awful lot of extra work doing all these comments, but the biggest problem students have is not closing their decisions or closing them in the wrong spot. So if you think about it and comment what each brace means, then it's much less confusing. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to have is our output, and that's just going to simply output the message. So I'm going to put in here document write, .write, and then just enclose that in parentheses, since that's going to have both the label and the label is actually inside that decision. Inside that place of memory, I'm sorry. Alright, so let's go ahead and test it and see if this works. Okay, hand is raised, yes. And the answer is correct, yes. Thank you for the correct answer, so that's one. Then we have another. Hand is raised, yes. Answer correct, no. Thank you for trying. And then we have our third one we can do. The answer is no. So when I click OK here, we're not going to get that second question because the only time we see that question is if we say yes. It's just going to pop up and say, in the future, please study harder. So now that we're in a little bit more complex area, you really need to pay attention to where your braces stop and start, or you're going to have all sorts of problems and frustrating issues of chasing things down. Also remember the double equal sign is another issue that students have. They want to put one there, and that means it'll just keep being yes, whether they type yes or no.